You know, I just realized something. I've been working on this village for a while now, but I've never really thought about it in super exact terms. But this is episode 6 of working on the village, and it's episode 12 of the series as a whole, which means this project is a half of the entire Create series I've done, which honestly, I'm completely fine with because we are just about at the finish line. In the last episode, we finally got this gold production system working with the addition of several new farms with this moss farm and that tree farm, and that means we can take the gold from this thing, which is producing like there is no tomorrow, and we already have like 3 stacks, which is insane, and we can take the apples from the tree farm we built in the last episode, and we can combine those to finally have an infinite source of golden apples. And those will of course be for this zombification machine so that we can heal as many villagers as we want and get infinitely low prices, just like this guy has cut his prices from 9 down to 1 and 18 down to 1, which is a very insane discount. And because of these discounts that can go infinitely, it means we can get any enchantment max level for 1 emerald, which is absolutely insane. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because we don't have infinite golden apples just yet. We have just about none, I'm pretty sure. And that's actually not a very hard problem to fix, though. We just need to make an automatic crafter because, like I just said, we have both of the ingredients for them, and all I have to do is decide where to put it and how to make it look, because I'm running into a little bit of a problem with all the buildings I'm making. It's getting very repetitive. It's much based on the vanilla style, like this building, which was naturally generated, where you have the log frame and some stuff inside of that log frame, but I've kind of dumbed it down to log frame or with terracotta or cobblestone in it, and that is almost every single one of my buildings. And even the vanilla village can have more variation than that. I mean, look at like that one. It has like a weird roof and stuff. So to actually fix this problem, I went ahead and looked at all of the buildings that are in a normally generating vanilla plains village, which is obviously the biome I'm in, so that's the village type I'm going with. And there's one building that really caught my eye because I kind of have this empty space here and I want to fill it with something interesting. And this building that I saw has 2 stories, one of which has an entrance to a porch normally, but since there's kind of 2 terrain levels here, I was thinking I could build that building, but instead of having a porch, we just kind of have the one entrance down here, and then the second entrance can go up here and connect to this road, which I think could look really cool. And since it's going to be kind of half underground, it'll leave plenty of space for the automatic crafter that's going to go inside of it. So I suppose without further ado, let's go ahead and build this thing, and I'll explain how the entire automatic crafting system works in just a second. There we go. I would say that turned out pretty well. It's definitely much more unique than any other building I've done, partially because of this stone section down at the bottom, which is part of the vanilla design, and I think it just looked great, and also because of this extreme amount of wooden-like frame, making it look a lot more like a Tudor house than these ones do, even though they kind of look like Tudor houses because of the wooden frame they have. This face definitely looks like it, though, and the rest of the building is actually pretty similar to the rest of them, but like, yeah, it's like wider or something. I don't know. It's different enough that I think it does actually stand out and break the pattern a little bit, which is pretty much all I was asking for. And I actually decided to keep the porch on the second level and just have another entrance here anyway, because I kind of like the look of the porch, and I didn't really know what to do with this cobblestone thing without the porch, although it does have one slightly unfortunate side effect, which means that the entire upper floor here is just like entrances and a stairwell. There's not really room for anything else because the building's kind of like short this way. But that's kind of fine because the basement is what really matters, because down here we have a fully automatic auto crafter, which I guess is kind of part of being an auto crafter. It has to be fully automatic to be an auto crafter, and we have 2 mechanical arms that are actually going to be putting items in it. And I think once this entire thing is actually going, it should look really cool, because the way it's going to work is one of these auto arms is going to place gold in the outer sections of this auto crafter, and the second auto arm is going to place an apple in the middle. And then because this thing is being powered from below with rotational energy, it will automatically combine those resources into a golden apple. And honestly, I think this is probably one of the most overpowered things that Create adds in, simply because of the fact that you can craft any item this way. Like, any automatic crafting you want to do, you can do with this, which is kind of ridiculous, but also just great, and it makes it so you can automatically farm, I think, literally anything. But we're just focused on making golden apples, which are currently not coming out of it because neither of the inputs to this farm are hooked up. I need to get gold going into that one and apples going into that one, which both of which should be pretty easy, and the only reason I haven't done it yet is because I'm lazy, but gold needs to come from this building and just go underground somewhere over to, I literally lost where it was, there, and apples need to come from a little bit farther away from there all the way over to here, and I guess I'm just gonna add 2 new conveyor belts to the growing tangle of stuff that is hidden beneath this nice quaint village. There we go, 2 new lines in. We got this conveyor belt and we got this conveyor belt, and both of them lead up over to this automatic crafter, and it's already kind of working. Just waiting on the one last gold to be put in so that a golden apple will actually be crafted, and I'm really hoping I timed my recording of this clip well enough that I will actually get that last golden ingot coming in while I'm still recording. Come on, I believe in you. Just 1 gold. You can do it. Just make a gold. Wait, did it make it? It made a gold. Let's go. It combines it, and we get a golden apple, which it then puts another apple in because we get way more apples than we get gold. And that golden apple should have been automatically sent on over to the zombification machine, which means we can go ahead and zombify a whole lot more villagers, because while I'm zombifying villagers, this thing's just gonna keep going, and I'm pretty sure it's producing golden apples faster than I could ever possibly use them, just because it takes a while for a zombified villager to heal. But there's just one problem. Currently, this guy is in my zombification machine, and he is a nice silk touch villager, and I kind of need a place to put him while I zombify other villagers, and I also need a place to put all of the other villagers that I'm gonna zombify. And that means I have to make a villager trading hall. On episode 6 of this project, finally we make the centerpiece of any good villager setup. But the thing is, like I talked about several episodes ago at this point, I have 2 major problems with villager trading halls that are really going to get in the way of me actually making one. Problem number 1 is the size of a villager trading hall. Normally I make a 25 block long thing with villagers on either side, giving me a capacity of 50, which I have never filled up, so it's definitely big enough. But the thing is, a 25 block long structure is probably from about like here over to like there, and that is just about twice the length of like this normal hut, and I don't really want to make that. It would just be an absolutely gigantic building. So the other option is just shove it underground, which is something I've been kind of trying to avoid and only doing when absolutely necessary, like, you know, this moss farm, which is similarly gigantic and can't just be put in a building. So if I don't want to put it underground and I don't want to build a building for it, I can't really do a trading hall. So instead of doing one giant 25 block long building for the trading hall, I'm going to be making several different smaller buildings that just have a couple of villagers in each one, which should make it seem like it's a lot less space taken up than it actually is, because I can spread it out a whole lot more. And this kind of leads to problem number 2, which is the way I do villager trading halls. I tend to put everyone in alphabetical order based on the enchanted book that they sell. But this has one major issue in that books like Unbreaking and Mending, the super common ones, I want way, way more often than I want like Riptide or Luck of the Sea. So they should be in a place that's more accessible than the ones that I use less often. And with the layout of several different buildings with different enchantments in each one, I can have the ones that I use more often in a more central building, like one that's like right here, for instance, and then all the random fishing rod enchantments can go off over here somewhere and have like a nice little fishing lake to fit with the theme a little bit. So I want to build a building for each different category of enchantments, and by category I just mean categories that I've made up, of which there are 13. Firstly, you have stuff that can be applied to anything. This is like Unbreaking and Mending. It's super versatile, so it'll be super central because I'll need it the most often, theoretically. And then as you get further away from the village center, which is going to be this tree, you'll get into more obscure enchantments. First, you have like the general armor enchantments, like Blast Protection and Thorn, stuff like that. Then if you go even further away, you can find stuff for specific pieces of armor, like all the helmet enchantments and boot enchantments. And we'll do the same thing for weapons and tools. You can have general enchantments like sharpness and fortune and silk touch near the center, and as you go further away, you get specific stuff for swords or bows or tridents, and also the specifics for fishing rod, which is the only tool with tool-specific enchantments, which I just find funny. I mean, it's not that the fishing rod is, like, useless, it's just not that useful, and it's the only one, so I find it a little weird, but that will be nice and far away. And this category system will hopefully make it a whole lot easier to find the enchantments I'm looking for, rather than a super big alphabetized trading hall where all the villagers are just thrown in one spot. But there's kind of a problem with that. If I'm going to have 13 different buildings, I need to do some planning because all of the buildings I've built so far is 12. So I'm going to be more than doubling the size of the village, which does kind of make sense because I've completely filled out this side but not the other. So it'll just be like making the whole thing symmetrical. And so far, I know that I'm going to be putting them generally on these paths, and I'll probably have to make a couple more paths, but I need a lot more planning than that because first of all, these paths don't make any sense. Why is there a T-junction here? These paths aren't even lined up. Where does this one go? So I need to fix that. But I also need to actually decide where each category's building is going to go so that I actually get the more centralized ones where I want them to be, as opposed to just accidentally into having weird fishing rod enchantments like right here, which I don't think I'd mess up that bad, but it's totally possible. So I'm going to go ahead and rework this road network a little bit probably and decide where every single building is going to go. I've popped on over into a creative version of the world to do this layout because I don't have concrete, but I have planned out all 12 buildings actually. I decided to combine 2 right there, and the road network is completely untouched and still a lot of it is empty, but I might just get rid of those roads honestly. But I've gone ahead and put in every single building, so we have the general one that is in red here, and then we have the 3 orange ones that are the less central ones, but still pretty right there, and then we have all of the yellow ones, which are very spread out. There's even going to be a lake over there. It's going to be pretty cool. But I'm not actually ready to build any of these yet because I have to actually be able to get the villagers to them. And normally the way I do this is I have the villagers coming from there, just get deposited into the trading hall, and then they pathfind to their spot. But pathfinding is not good enough to do this entire gigantic area, so I have to come up with a better system. And I've come up with 2 different options, and let's go look at them. The first hurdle is that I need to tell the machine where each villager is gonna go, and I can't do this automatically. There's just no way to know what enchantment they're selling, so I have to do it manually, and I've come up with this system for it. It's pretty simple. You have a selector and this little like keypad on a lectern, and if you press A and D, it moves the redstone block back and forth, and then we can use that information to A, display which one it's actually selected, so which like category of villager enchantment. Then also we can send that signal to one of these 2 things. These are 2 different options for distributing the villagers. One of them is just a simple conveyor belt system. You have a conveyor belt and you have a bunch of T-junctions that gets them to the right place, and with a redstone signal you can have that T-junction bring you to another place if I could ever manage to land on this conveyor belt, and now it goes left. Right, and you can just have a bunch of those and you can get going the right way. However, that's kind of lame, and also you can only do T-junctions, so I came up with this idea, which is a heck of a lot more complicated. These are gantry shafts, and they're just used to like move things around, and they're actually not that complicated. You spin them one way, things go forward, spin them the other, things go backwards. And with this fancy gantry shaft that has 4 carriages on it, I can make it go down a whole bunch of different routes, and if we turn that on, it goes out, and we turn it off, it comes back. So you'd put the villager on here, send them out, they would get taken over to their spot, put in somehow, I'll figure out that system later, and then taken back. And by flipping these switches around, you can go ahead and get it to go pretty much anywhere. I will have to do some refining because that was supposed to go left. Okay, yeah, there's some issues, but it's nothing I can't fix, hopefully. There we go. That's the correct space. I think with enough redstone logic, I can get this system to work, and we can do a 4-way intersection as opposed to just T-junctions, because this will make it a little annoying to get it to work, and honestly, this is just a lot cooler. Okay, I fixed it. It turns out I don't need some insanely complicated redstone logic. I just need to discover the feature of gantry shafts that I didn't know about. And notice these two are glowing, whereas these ones aren't. That's because these ones are powered by a redstone signal. And what that does is normally if a gantry shaft like this and this thing is spinning, it's only 1 block long. But if I were to extend that and, you know, reverse the direction, it would theoretically go, although I guess it doesn't feel like it. There we go. It moves, right? But if I power the gantry shaft, it starts spinning this. And no matter what direction I have this going, it doesn't move, which means it won't pull at it at this intersection. So these two lines are essentially disabled. So if we just like turn it on, now it just goes straight to the right section. And it might break here. Oh, it didn't. Cool. It occasionally breaks there because if it ends and these things aren't on the little gantry shafts, they break. So that sometimes happens there. Just why there's like a gantry shaft on the floor. Might have to fix that later. But this system works super well. You just turn off the one that you want it to actually go to, and it just goes. So this should work really well. So I'm going to head back over into the survival world and start getting some of this stuff built. I do still have a little bit more redstone logic to actually put in here. Like this thing is currently very breakable. I don't think any of these are functional right now because I was trying to fix it, but I have to fix this a little bit. And then we can actually get implementing, which should be very cool. I realized I should actually explain what's wrong with this thing. I did fix it, by the way, but essentially what was happening is if you activate them both with this control panel at the same time, so you press both A and D, it would break it because it would activate both of these gear shifts, which try and turn the piston different ways. And it's just like, it can't do that. It breaks a block, so it would break one of these gear shifts. Now, when you press one button, so if I press left, it turns on the left one, but it also turns off the right one, which works super well. And I can press them both at the same time. Nothing happens. I lied. No, things happen. What? Okay, it's fixed. It turns out if I manage to input a 1-tick pulse with this little controller, it broke something. Don't know why, but I added pulse extenders on everything, so now I can't do that, and it works super well, unless you spam the button so fast that the pulse extender just considers it a maintained pulse. But if you get like kind of a rhythm going, you can actually, you know, maneuver it pretty well, which works great. And now I'm going to go figure out where I'm going to put this big thing in the survival world. So the obvious choice is inside of here, but there's not really room inside of here, and also I have to put that little controller on a lectern, and if I have a lectern like in the corner, then the villager like sticks onto that, is like, ooh, I want that one, and they won't pay attention to the one in front of them, which breaks the entire thing. Another option is basement, but no, there's not room, so I can't do it in this building, unfortunately. So I'm just going to kind of go a little bit off to the side from it right here, because I want it to be close by, just because you're going to, like, you know, get the profession you want, and then go over here and send them off to the correct building. So I'm going to build a little building here that has enough room for that control panel and also a little thing that tells you what thing you have selected. And I might try and have the like fancy redstone lamps in it, but that would result in a very long room, so I think I'm going to pass on that. There we go, another very basic, very cookie-cutter building in the village. It's pretty much the same as these ones and all of the really, like, tiny buildings, but it serves its purpose, because it's not how it looks on the outside that matters, it's this little control console on the inside, because we can fully cycle through every single different category of enchantment, and if we head down below, you can see the whole lot of redstone stuff that allows that to happen. It is the exact same system that was in the creative testing world, only it's not hooked up to redstone lamps. Instead, it is hooked up to a billion little display links that are reading off of these Nixie tubes to get the actual text. So even though it only displays 2 letters, each of these is displaying the full name of a category, so that's how it knows what to put on the sign. And it all works really well, except for the fact that it doesn't do anything except for change that sign. So the next step is to actually get the gantry carriage system in that thing will affect. But I've actually been debating if that is what I want to do next, because obviously I could do the gantry shafts now and then build the buildings on top of them, but I think doing it the other way around will be much better. You see, I have all the buildings planned out already, so if I just go ahead and build all of those, I can then make the gantry shaft system go up to them, and then I can immediately, when I build the gantry shafts, make the interface between the carriage and the building, which is probably going to be quite the system, because I have no idea how I'm going to do that so far. far, but I can figure that out later. But if I do the gantry shafts first, I'm gonna have to just kind of guess at where they should go in terms of that interface. So instead, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do the buildings first. And since I've already planned all 12 of them out, all there is left to do is actually get them built. However, there's not enough time left in this episode for that, so we're going to leave that for the next one. So for now, I really hope you liked it, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.